my friends, welcome back to my channel. My name's Tori. If you're new, I'm so excited that you're here. I hope you're having the best day of your entire stinking life. We are gonna go through all the books that I read in September. Grab a coffee, grab a snack, grab tea, water, whatever you need. Let's talk about some books. As we do, we're gonna start with my books that I rated the lowest for the month and work our way up to the books that I rated the absolute highest for the month. September was a very mixed bag of genres. So if you notice that we're jumping all over the place from dark romance to horror to fantasy, YA fantasy, yeah, I was embracing my mood readerness. So there's that. Okay, first book I'm gonna talk about because it's super fresh in my brain, I literally just finished it maybe an hour ago, is River of Shadows by Karina Hall. I gave this book 2 stars. This book was recommended to me as a retelling of Hades and Persephone, which we all know I live, I eat, I breathe for Hades and Persephone retellings. However, this one was a little bit different and I was very intrigued by it. So it is a Finnish mythology retelling. These gods have entirely different names, but essentially we follow our main character. Her name is Hannah. She finds out that her estranged father has passed away from cancer, unfortunately, so she's going back to Finland for his funeral. Well, some evil shamans kidnap her. She finds out her dad potentially might not be dead, and she has to travel to the underworld to save her father. It just wasn't it. Like, the romance was not it. There was no character development in the story. Like, all of the characters from the time you meet them in the story to the end of the story, they're no different. I wasn't hating this story as I was reading it. I kind of thought it was a silly, goofy, fun time. My ice maker is being so rude. Thank you. I liked Hannah's character, but it just kind of didn't go anywhere or do anything, and then I wasn't screaming, crying, throwing up about the romance in this book, so 2 stars. And then the second 2-star book that I read in September was called A Soul to Keep by Opal Rain. This is a chunky dark romance book that honestly has a similar dynamic to like Beauty and the Beast, like a monster romance type thing. Our main character is part of this village who every year they sacrifice a girl to this demon in order for their village to remain protected from other creatures and other demons throughout the year. So our main character gets sacrificed to this demon, and she kind of has to learn how to survive in the Vale, which is where he lives. Similar to an underworld, but it's basically just the world where the demons live. And it was interesting. I actually did like the characters. Like, I was pretty into this story for a very long time. I started reading it on a flight, and I have this theory now that when you start reading any book on a flight, because there's nothing else to do and you're so invested and like focused on your book, that you can think that it's better than it actually is. Because I started reading it on the plane, obsessed, like absolutely obsessed with it. I think I read like 50 or 40% of it. I was reading it so fast, just like freaking out. Then I returned to it a couple days later and I was like, this is not it. What was I thinking? Like, why was I so obsessed with this? I liked the relationship. Honestly, like the relationship, the way that it develops, where it starts off to where it kind of ends, I liked it. The smut is very interesting. Like, it's very monstery. We'll just say that because no spoilers, but if you want more deets, just let me know. Actually, if you want more deets, I think read my Goodreads review because things got weird, okay? It wasn't for me, but I do think that the writing was really good. The relationship was really fun to read about. They had a lot of cute moments, and then they also had some smutty moments, a lot of smutty moments. Okay, then getting into my 3 stars. I feel like I'm holding up my hands like this a lot, so I'm gonna try to stop doing that. My next book was my first 3-star read of September, and that was Dead Silence by S.A. Barnes. This is a horror book about a space adventure that goes horribly, horribly wrong. I did include this in a reading vlog. If you want to watch that, I will leave it linked up above and down below. So I listened to the audiobook. The audiobook was fantastic. The narrator did such a good job like voice acting the really, really crazy, action-packed, suspenseful, horrific moments. Such a good job. Basically, this book takes place in the future and we're following this space crew. They're headed back home from this contract. But while they're headed back home, they hear this distress signal and they decide to go check it out. Well, the spacecraft that they heard this distress signal from turns out to be this really famous lost luxury space cruiser that went on its voyage and then no one ever heard from it again. It was kind of like the Titanic of space travel. So there were a ton of super, super wealthy people, celebrities, all of these people that paid a bunch of money to go on this space voyage. And it's a very, very luxury ship. So the crew decides to claim that discovery. So they go aboard the ship basically to figure out what happens and to like claim their discovery. Well, things just go horribly, horribly wrong from there. So it was very, very suspenseful. It was a good balance of really fast-paced moments and then slower moments. So it did keep you very invested in the story. The reason why I gave it 3 stars was because I didn't love the twist at the end. You have an unreliable main character, which is always really, really fun, and it has you questioning the entire time, like, can I trust what she's saying? Or could something else be going on? So it was a good time. I had a lot of fun with it. Just didn't love the plot twist right at the very end. It made it a little bit less like spooky scary for me. Then my first book that I get to hold up that I read physically was A Forgery of Roses by Jessica S. Olsen. I gave this book 3 stars as well. This is a YA fantasy book that follows our main character, Myra Whitlock, and she has a gift that many others would kill for. She is a prodigy painter, so what she paints actually comes to life. Well, she's hiding her gift because a lot of people could blackmail her for it, and ultimately in their kind of like culture and world, prodigy painters like herself are feared, looked down upon, hunted, and kind of killed. One frigid night when the governor's wife discovers the truth about her gift, she threatens to expose Myra if she doesn't complete a special portrait that would resurrect the governor's dead son. If you like kind of a Stephanie Garber type writing style, there are a lot of cliffhangers and also just really beautiful descriptions. For me, it was the romance that I wasn't super obsessed with, and then it just seemed like the plot structure was jumping all over the place. It felt a little bit immature, almost like Jessica Olsen wasn't sure what was gonna happen with the plot as she was writing it. But I would recommend this book if you like really pretty descriptions. It takes place in the winter, so I feel like coming into November and December, this would be a really good book to pick up. There is a mystery element to it. There's a really sweet sister dynamic as well. So yeah, ultimately I enjoyed it, but it was about a 3-star for me. Okay, I'm gonna talk about this book right now because it's feeling like a 3-star read for me at this point in time. But when I'm filming this on September 30th, I still haven't finished the Atlas 6, and I'm planning on getting through more of it today because I need to have this finished by October 2nd for our live show for the Confused Queens book club. But it's feeling like a 3-star, so I'm going to include it in this section. So the Atlas 6, I feel like we've all heard about this book. It is so, so hyped up on BookTube, Book Talk, just the book community in general. So we follow 6 magicians that get chosen to be a part of this very exclusive society called the Alexandrian Society. Basically, they're in charge of guarding the Library of Alexandria, which the entire world believes to be burned down, gone, all of this lost knowledge. Well, it turns out it's not burned down, it's not lost, it's just secret. They basically have to play this game as they're protecting the library because at the end of their trial period, only 5 will be chosen and there's 6 candidates. So that's kind of the premise of the story. I would say it's more of a low fantasy because it does take place in our world, and I really like how the world building was presented in this book because it is not overwhelming at all. It really makes a lot of sense, and they mention characters like Einstein was potentially like a witch or a magician and things like that. So like really intelligent people in our society that were like, oh my gosh, these people are geniuses. This book kind of puts its own twist saying that yes, they were geniuses, they were extremely knowledgeable, but it was because they were part of this Alexandrian society and they had exposure to lost knowledge, but they also had like magical abilities. So I find that really, really fascinating. The characters in this book are extremely well written. The first couple chapters where you're meeting all of our 6 characters, I was flabbergasted. I thought it was so incredibly well done, so interesting. The only part that really is losing me in this book is it does get very sciencey at times. So far, I'm about halfway through the book right now. There's been one really big action-packed section, and then everything else so far has been just a much slower period through the plot. So that's all I'll say for right now, because obviously I haven't finished the book, but I did want to talk about it and throw it in here. Coming into my first 4-star of September, I read The Vanishing Stair by Maureen Johnson, which is the second book in the Truly Devious series. I won't say too much about this. I did also include this book in a reading vlog, which again will be linked in the description. Also in the same reading vlog was when I read Forgery of Roses. So all I'll say is that this book, you get so many answers in this book that from what was set up in the first book. I was so surprised that we got as many answers as we did in this book. It was so crazy. The ending was so suspenseful. It left us on a cliffhanger. I really cannot wait to read the 3rd book in this series. And I'm still just absolutely loving Stevie. I'm loving what's going on with her. I'm loving the relationships with the school. Again, this is such an aesthetic, really good fall. It gives like light academia vibes. So if you're looking to pick this up in October or November, I feel like this series would be a really good series to pick up. And when I read these books, I fly through them. So if you're looking for something that's very fast paced, absolutely 100% recommend the Truly Devious series. My next 4-star was called To Break a Covenant by Allison Ames. This is a YA horror book that follows this little group of girlies who are in high school, like at the beginning of their kind of high school careers. They live in this kind of haunted, very creepy, notorious mining town. Their town really starts to experience more and more weirdness. Their animals are kind of like running away, or bad things happen to their pets, which is so sad. Oh my gosh, I hated that part. So no one keeps pets because bad things happen to their pets. People are having nightmares. They are getting called to the mine, and overall just a lot of weirdness. So our little girly pops decide to go into the mine and explore and figure out what in the heck and bob is going on and if they can make it better. They're taking ownership of this problem and they're going to solve it for everyone else. This book was so claustrophobic. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, if you have claustrophobia, when they're in the mine and they say like the walls feel like they're closing in and it's very dark and their vision starts to go a little bit wonky and they feel like they have some incredible brain fog, and then there's potentially like creepy creatures that are in the mine and all of these things, it felt very claustrophobic. So I'll list that as kind of a trigger warning for you if you don't like really claustrophobic situations. The dialogue is so believable to like early high schoolers. I think they're like freshmen or sophomores in high school, and their dialogue between each other was just exquisite. I thought the audiobook was really fantastic as well. And then my third 4-star was Cackle by Rachel Harrison. This is another audiobook that I listened to in September. I included it in a separate reading vlog, which I will include up above and down below if you want to hear a little bit more of my thoughts on it. But I read this book because it was a recommendation from Darling Desi as a book that was very vibey for the fall season, and it absolutely does not disappoint. So Cackle is a book where we follow our main character. She was a teacher in Manhattan. So in Manhattan, she lived there for quite some time. Her and her boyfriend of 10 years end up going through a really heart-wrenching breakup. He basically tells her that he's no longer in love with her. She decides, okay, I just turned 30. My boyfriend of 10 years broke up with me. I need to just make a change. I'm at a turning point in my life. Let me make this something positive. So she moves out of the city to this upstate New York little town that is very Stars Hollow-esque. There is a cute little diner that they go to every day. The town is all decked out for Halloween. I am 100% a Gilmore Girls girly. That is my comfort show. I watch it all year round. I've probably watched it like 10 times through at this point. Literally love it so much. And it's really just an exploration of our main character's identity. You know, like she identified for so long as a city girl, a teacher with this boyfriend who was such a piece of crap, like I can't even deal with him. And so now she's really asking herself, like, who am I now? And like, what makes me happy? I was almost kicking myself that I didn't include it in one of my sad girl vlogs, because it was such that journey of self-discovery and how to be okay being single and things like that. I don't know what genre to put this book in, because there are magical elements to this book, so it's definitely a little bit of magical realism. Like a silly, goofy, fun time. It kind of gives the same magical vibes as like the X-Hex or the Kiss Curse or Payback's a Witch, but it's not as over the top on the magic piece, and it's much more focused on, like, I would almost describe it as like a contemporary fiction, because the main plot is focused around her meeting her new witchy bestie, Sophie, and again, that journey of self-discovery. Can't recommend this book enough. If you're looking for a book that's just vibes, 100% recommend. And then I had 2 4.5 star books that I'm very excited to talk about. If you're surprised, I am as well. My first 4.5 star was Muse of Nightmares by Laini Taylor. I'm so happy that I pushed myself to continue with this duology, because as y'all probably know, if you watched my last month wrap up for August, I read Strange the Dreamer and I really didn't love it. I gave it 3 stars. This book was so stinking amazing. I was obsessed with this. So I read along with the audiobook because Steve West narrates both Strange the Dreamer and Muse of Nightmares, and that man's sexy voice, I cannot get enough of. Anyways, I was so taken aback by how different the plot pacing of this book is compared to Strange the Dreamer. Strange the Dreamer is all vibes and barely any plot. This is so much plot and amazing vibes. Like, I just can't even describe how surprised I was about this book, but so much happens in this book. We meet new characters that have such an impact on the story. There's such an incredible sister dynamic in this book that literally breaks your heart, rips it out of your chest, and stomps on it. Laini Taylor was out for our tears in this book. Not only that, but the romance that we follow between some of the characters in the first book obviously continues on in this one, and it's very, very high stakes that you don't know what's gonna happen, and their love is so precious and so cute. And there's also some very, very sensual scenes in this book that I was like, hold on a moment, this is a YA? Like, what is going on? And it's nothing that's extremely explicit, but it feels like you're in a room that you weren't meant to be in, if you know what I'm saying. Like, you're like, this is so sensual. I feel like I'm watching something I'm not supposed to be watching right now. So I absolutely loved this book. If you were someone who read Strange the Dreamer and had a similar reaction to me, where you were like, why is everyone hyping this book up so much? You need to read this one. This was worth it. In my opinion, it was worth reading Strange the Dreamer to get to this book. Loved it. And thank you so much, Mandy, for sending me and encouraging me to pick up this duology, because oh my goodness, I loved this. And then my second 4.5 star read for September is such a different vibe than Muse of Nightmares, so just bear with me for a moment. It was called Scream for Us by Molly Doyle. This is a dark romance reverse harem novella. Like, this was, I think, 95 pages to 100 pages, and it is basically a Scream fanfic. So we are at this Halloween party with our main character, and she says, I want to just do whatever I want tonight. And she ends up meeting these masked men that show her a good time. And it was 4.5 stars. I stinking loved this book so much. And Molly Doyle, it's gonna be such a good book if you wanna pick it up for October. Like, I highly, highly recommend, because it literally takes place at a Halloween party on Halloween. And some dark things happen as well, outside of just romantic parts of this book. So yeah. Molly Doyle also has a book called Melt for Us. It's like a spin-off of Scream for Us, but Christmas themed. and I will be reading that in December. Oh my gosh, and then I'm so excited to talk about these final 2 books because these are my 2 5-star reads of September. The first one was called The Watchers by A.M. Shine. This is a horror book that is on Kindle Unlimited, and if you want a super scary, suspenseful, crazy, creepy book for October, you need to pick up The Watchers by A.M. Shine. This is also a short story. I think it was just under 300 pages. Around the 300 page mark, so very, very short. Oh my gosh. This is included in a reading vlog. I did a lot of reading vlogs in September, y'all, but this is also included in one of the reading vlogs that's listed down below if you want more of my thoughts on it. The Watchers is a survive the night story. We follow this group of characters who found themselves in this honestly cursed forest. It takes place in Ireland, and there are these creatures that are living in this forest that almost everyone has forgotten about. They've found their way into this forest because most of them, their cars broke down right outside of the tree line, and they wandered into the forest to find some shelter. Well, that doesn't happen. They don't return to their cars because these creatures, once you're in the forest, no one comes out. They all find themselves together in this bunker that was built, very mysterious bunker that was built, and every night when the light comes on, when the moon starts to come out and it starts to get dark, they have to lock themselves inside. Because if you left, you're donezo. You're absolutely donezo. And the really, really weird thing about this bunker is that one of the walls is a completely glass, like almost like a two-way mirror, so that the creatures can see in and watch those trapped humans, but the humans cannot really see out. It was so scary. In the vlog I mentioned this as well, but for me, there's been 2 books that really scared the pants off of me that I think of as my absolute top tier scariest books that I've ever read. That is The Sleep Experiment by Jeremy Bates, Stolen Tongues by Felix Blackwell. Honestly, The Watchers is number 3. The creatures that are in this book are my least favorite creatures to read about because they scare me so stinking much. Incredible. If you are, again, if you're looking for a really actually scary book for October, highly, highly recommend this book. And then, are we surprised? Probably not. My queen, Stephanie Garber, released a new book this month. I dropped everything and read it right away when it arrived at my door. I had to get the Barnes & Noble exclusive edition to match my Once Upon a Broken Heart edition, and this is the signed edition by Stephanie Garber. I'm obsessed with her, and I was obsessed with this book. I gave it 5 stars. I literally loved it so much, which was pretty surprising because Once Upon a Broken Heart, I actually didn't love as much as I thought I was going to. I wasn't the biggest fan of Evangeline at first, compared to how obsessed I was with Scarlett and Donatella in the Caraval series, but everything changed in The Ballad of Never After. I loved Evangeline. I loved the other characters. I loved her romances. I loved Jax. So if you don't know, Once Upon a Broken Heart is a spin-off series from some of the characters in the Caraval series. I would recommend that you read the Caraval series first if you're looking to read Once Upon a Broken Heart and The Ballad of Never After, because it's going to give you a lot of the foundation for what's actually happening in these books. So these are spin-off books about Jax, who is one of the characters in the Caraval series that you meet, I believe, in Legendary, and he is one of these fates that is basically a magical person in this world. He's the Prince of Hearts. Never did I thought I would see the day where I was obsessed with a blonde-haired, blue-eyed love interest, but here we are, and I'm not mad about it. I'm obsessed with Jax. I love him so much. I literally cannot wait for the 3rd book in this series. I need it to come out immediately, and I think that Stephanie Garber on her Instagram story said recently that it's coming out in 2023. I will be there. I will have it the moment that that book gets released because I'm obsessed and she is my queen. And those are all the books that I read in September, my friends. I hope that you enjoyed this video. If you did, please be sure to give it a big thumbs up, subscribe to my channel if you want to see more. I post every Sunday and Thursday. I do monthly reading sprints on my channel. We have the Confused Queens book club, and we're picking our books very soon for November, December, and January, and we're asking y'all to vote on what books we're reading. So I will leave the link to our Discord in the description box below, but also be sure to follow my Instagram and the Instagrams of my co-hosts, Nikki Lopez and Sarah from Sarah Lorian Reads. I will leave them in the description box below as well because we post a lot of updates for our book club on our Instagram. Thank you so much. I'll see you in my next one. Bye, friends.